Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back to our Breakthrough Club. And in case this is your first time watching the Flawless and Bound Breakthrough Club, what we are trying to do is we always try to have guests who are thought leader in their industry, who wants to share experience and expertise that they have seen in their organization or in the community, and how they're kind of dealing with change and growth and maybe current and future challenges as well. And we want to kind of pick their brain so that we can learn from them. And I will ask them kind of questions around culture, systems, communication with their teams and their clients, and hopefully future vision focus. And we always ask them at the end of the show one or two things that we all can learn from and go from there. More than happy today to introduce our guest, Dave White, founder and CEO of TRINUS Tech. Dave, thank you so much for giving us the time today to speak to us and our audience on the show.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, Sahir.
Thank you. So Dave, just for the audience, can you please introduce yourself, your current role, but also the evolution of your role in TRINUS in general?
Okay, well, sure. Dave White, I am the current Director of Account Management and Marketing for TRINUS. I'm one of the founding partners. And gosh, over the 23 years that we've been in business, I guess I'm kind of the chief cook and bottle washer. Have done most absolutely everything within the company. Certainly in the early days, found myself underneath desks, installing computers for people, trying to figure out how to configure networks, wiring networks, installing servers, asking and answering questions, just absolutely everything in the early days of IT management for a lot of our clients.
Wow, Dave. So when I speak about 23 years, and again, I don't need to date you here, but I'll go back to, are we speaking about like IBM mainframe servers? Are we speaking about DECnet, networking protocols and stuff like that? Or?
Well, actually, my background started out in electrical engineering, and like many people who went through, when I went through, we were dealing with IBM mainframes, punch cards, handing punch cards into operators who would run them through the big IBM mainframes that were hidden behind closed doors, took up a whole floor in the university area, and then having all your results spit out on a sheet. So I was exposed to computers at the very, very beginning, but then I took a bit of a hiatus and actually ran an automotive machine shop for a number of years. That was about the first 20 years of my entrepreneurial career. And then we closed that down, and then I went back to computers. And when I got back in, we were dealing with IBM PCs. They were kind of the first things that were being released in the personal computer market. And there was a couple of Radio Shack units around at that time. And then you had Dell, was actually one of the first companies that started out manufacturing some PCs, and then HP started. So that's really when I started to get serious, is with the whole personal PC and baby servers. But yeah, we did wiring, coaxial wiring. We did it all, that's for sure.
Wow. And by the way, just for the audience, I have personal passion towards engineers because I'm an engineer myself. But actually my background is electronics and communication engineering as well. So when I feel the founder CEO is coming from an engineering background, I kind of full respect. I understand what it takes to do that, and then pivot and transition to future roles in organization. So speaking about transition and transformation, and you I would guess you were wearing a lot of multiple hats, Dave, right, during your journey this last 23 years. I would assume that you were kind of leading a lot of divisions and a lot of teams and things like that. What's one of the best roles you had? You can just give us a perspective on the role that you maybe were running for a few years and you really enjoy doing. What would that be?
Well, boy, I mean, done most of the things within the company, of course, doing some of the hands-on tech work. And then finally, we started to gather some employees together and hired some people. One of my secrets, which really isn't much of a secret at all, it's just hire people that are smarter than you. And so we started out by doing that. And so then I gradually let them take over the actual day-to-day nuts and bolts tech work. We took a bit of a side detour into software development because let's just be honest, in the early years of our company, we weren't really sure what we were and what our expertise was. So we did some website development for a while because that was an up and coming thing. We actually did some software development for a while, developed a few applications ourselves, and even took a side detour into investigation management software. We developed a package for the RCMP that was used for a number of years. In fact, the package is still being used by a couple of large organizations worldwide right now. But it really wasn't something that we could do with excellence. And so while we had some success in that area, really we wanted to come back to our roots of managed IT services. And you got to realize this was in the early days. I mean, the internet was just over telephone wires. So even some large businesses didn't have much of an internet presence at all. And so everything was in-house. So we kind of came back to our core focus of managed IT. And by then, I was starting to move more into a senior management role and starting to work more with the sales team. So I would lead the sales team. We had very, very limited marketing at that time, the traditional word of mouth. But by the time we got to a firm of about 10 or 11 people, we decided that we needed a bit more of a professional response to our marketing and especially to our sales team. So it took us a while, but we finally hired our first salesperson, an account manager, if you will. And finally, we started to grow that team and get a lot more serious about proper marketing, proper approach to our market space, because by then we understood what we were really all about. And so then we could define our services and how to bring those into new clients and be successful with them.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dave, for walking us through the memory lane. Really appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so now, give us kind of a perspective of TRINUS. Who's TRINUS? How many employees? What kind of clientele usually you guys are kind of helping and supporting?
Sure, that's a good question. So we've got just under 30 people right now in our organization, mainly focused in Alberta, starting to branch out into BC as far as geography goes. But our main core base is municipal governments in Alberta, followed closely by the medical community. So clinics, health centers, dental clinics, that type of thing, because we start to understand a little bit more about their business and their business model. And of course, just like every other managed IT firm, we have a smattering of small business clients as well. But we've always tried to focus in on understanding what are the client's business problems. How do their business operations work, and how can we apply technology to solving their business problems? We don't approach it from a point of view of, well, let's install some servers and some workstations and get things configured and you take it from there. We're more interested in how the client actually does business. That's why we focus in on a vertical. So some of our early clients were municipal governments. And so for the last 20 years, we have a very good understanding of how they want to do business and what makes their operations tick. And for about the last 8 years, we've been focusing in on the medical community as well. So now we're starting to understand what's important to the medical community, a clinic, for example, and how do they successfully run their business operations. So we tend to focus in on verticals, understand the business, and then try to apply technology to it.
Beautiful. And Dave, I just want to echo what you're saying. What we have seen, us working with a lot of VAR and MSP, like value-added reseller and managed service provider, is only the few who get exactly what you said right now, which is laser zoom on a couple of industries and
Yes.
build your expertise around, then you really become the trusted advisor in that space. And I can see you guys are really doing it very well, because
Hmm.
it's really hard to position yourself as a trusted advisor and you're just kind of tackling the problem only from a technology perspective.
Right.
But what I'm hearing from you is that you and your team, you start building playbooks and process around, government vertical versus other verticals, and definitely playbooks. And
Absolutely. I mean, it's easy to go in and analyze someone's business operations from a very high level perspective and solve their immediate technical problems. And so that might provide you with a short win, some early success. But unless you understand at a very core level what their business operations are like, it's very difficult for you to advise and predict where their technology should lead them in the future. And now more than ever, especially since we've been in this whole pandemic situation, people need to understand where technology is taking them and where can it take them? How can it enhance their operations? And unless you understand what their business is about and how they do work, you can't. You're just 100% reactive. So we're finding ourselves in a position right now where we can start to advise our clients in how to be proactive in moving their operations from traditional paper and in-office workers and what have you into more of a digital transformation. So that's what we're really focusing in on now.
beautiful. And you know what? You're prepping me for the next question. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Digital transformation. That's one of the big things right now. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing from a lot of clients like yourself and others. They're saying that COVID is becoming an accelerator for a lot of organizations to step into the digital transformation phase. And you guys are kind of leading in that space right now, because you're helping a lot of government organization, medical, and especially in Alberta and BC eventually. So can you shed some light without sharing client specific, but just some high level lights on maybe samples or examples of how would this work from an IT?
Sure. So let me give you a couple of examples. I mean, virtually overnight, our clients, and including ourselves, we were forced into a remote work environment. I mean, everybody had to vacate their offices, work from home. So that really opened our eyes into what does a good, solid, secure, and stable network environment look like when you've got so many remote workers. So from a technology perspective, a municipality or medical clinic might have had a nice closed network environment, very secure. People would come into the office, log into their computer, everything was safe. But as soon as we started having people work from home, now we had all these home networks that were plugged into and connecting into the corporate network. And all of the connection issues, all of the performance issues, and more importantly, all of the security issues. Because now all of a sudden your nice, secure, closed network now had a whole bunch of unsecure home networks that it was also supporting. So you can see all of the challenges to maintain that. So while our clients were focusing in on the business problems, how do we communicate with our staff? How do we keep them abreast? How do we give them access to the files and the work that they need and their colleagues? We were in the background trying to focus in, how do we keep this environment running in a secure manner? Because the hackers, of course, cyber criminals saw this as a prime opportunity to be able to hack into networks. And we had to do a lot of work in the background to try to lock things down and secure things, yet still allow the client to maintain those business operations. So yeah, sure, we sold a lot of laptops and they sent their workers home with laptops, but that was only just a very, very small part of the work that we had to do to keep their networks running securely.
Perfect, because that was just the tip of the iceberg. But I can visualize all of the environments who are very sensitive when it comes to data privacy, and
Yes.
confidentiality, like governments, like medical,
Yes.
organizations. Of course, to them that was a big panic, because maybe traditionally from an IT perspective they had their shell of the office, and you guys
Yes.
were building that. Now, really what happened with COVID the last few months, maybe to the future, we don't know yet,
Mm-hmm.
that this shell is being now empty. Nobody's working in that shell. And now everybody's outside the shell trying to dial back to really continue operation. And that's, it's like overnight, the IT challenge became upside down, and you guys are kind of helping lead those organizations do that.
Exactly. I mean, for example, a lot of organizations, of course, kept their files on secure in-house servers. Well, that doesn't necessarily work that well in a remote environment. So now, well, let's move everything to the cloud. Well, that's very easy to say, but sometimes very difficult to do because the cloud, depending on where you are and where you have your files, doesn't necessarily lend itself to a secure environment that a government needs or a medical clinic needs. You can't just take and put patient records up into the cloud without having some sort of due diligence happen and vetting to make sure that those records are protected. The same thing with municipal government ratepayer records. There's a lot of confidential information floating around there, and it has to be secure. So while this might have been planned slowly for some of our clients over the next 2 or 3 years, they had to do it in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. And
Wow.
that really presented some challenges. And so just be honest with you, we did it, but we had to use a lot of chewing gum and a few Band-Aids to make it work properly. Well, now clients are starting to enjoy the benefits of a distributed environment, some things being offloaded to the cloud. So now we're having to backfill a lot of the protocols that we put in place and the operational procedures to make sure things are sustainable. Because now clients are starting to ask us, well, what if we want to have half our workforce work from home permanently all the time? And give us that flexibility because they've tasted the benefits of having a distributed and remote work from home environment for a lot of their staff. And so now we're having to try to make that sustainable for them and put things in place. So people think that, well, I have less internal servers and less internal IT infrastructure, therefore my IT needs and costs are going to go down. It's exactly the opposite, because now we have a lot more IT infrastructure over a wider area that needs to be maintained. So actually, IT costs are predicted to go up for a lot of organizations, including small businesses. It's all going to just increase is what it's going to do.
And I think like, again, like me as a, as part of a founding team as well in an organization, I think it makes sense because, hey, if I can see value in securing my data and ensuring that my employees are staying efficient in their operation and productive, but then at the same time, maybe in the future, I can see also my net profit is being adjusted because now maybe I don't need all the office location. Maybe I can rent half of my office location and then some of that budget reinvest in IT that actually can help me grow my business, maybe nationally, maybe internationally. Then there is actually value in that. So I can see what you guys can bring to the table. That's not just keeping the lights on, but be a strategic expansion for remote skills that the organization can bring using the kind of the platform and the TRINUS team to be able to actually ensure that the collaboration is happening, security is happening, and so on. So.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, just look what we're doing right now, Sahir. If this was a year and a half ago, you might have come over to our office or we might have gone to your office. We would have had a little interview. It might have been posted up on YouTube or something like that. But no, we're communicating remotely over a Zoom type of remote virtual meeting channel. And just imagine a large corporation, how many remote meetings, how many virtual meetings are they holding on a daily basis? Dozens, sometimes hundreds of meetings are going on. And before the pandemic, virtually none of these meetings were going on. So there's a whole new technology infrastructure that needs to be put in place. Plus, you have to train your users on how to use it properly. And as a manager, there's new challenges in that you don't have the luxury of just waltzing down the hall and poking your head into a user's or a colleague's office and saying, hey, what about this, that, or the other thing? You have to be a lot more deliberate. You have to be a lot more proactive as a manager in keeping the communication channels open with your colleagues and with your staff. And that requires a different way of thinking. And I'm sure you've come across exactly the same thing with your team that we have.
Absolutely. And we're working with you guys on the marketing side and sales development. So we can see the change you guys are bringing to your team, and we're very glad with that. So now that brings me to the next question, culture. How now, from a leadership perspective, how do you see culture evolving, especially now that maybe there are some organization that can be maybe 100% remote, some maybe other organization can be maybe 70% remote, but still they need line of business, back office, in the office, kind of 30%. Just from your perspective, 23 years in the business, and you have seen multiple transitions. How would you see culture change and shift in organizations, right?
Wow, that's a loaded question, isn't it? What you've got is that you've got this technology layer now that is in between people. And so the ultimate goal is to try to make the technology disappear into the background so it does not become the focus of what is happening between colleagues. It is something simply seamless and in the background that allows the communication channels to maintain open. So we don't sit around a boardroom table with 15 or 20 people and have a normal meeting. We might have a meeting where there's 3 or 4 people in the boardroom and the rest are joining remotely. Well, just even little things like picking up body language, allowing people the space to speak in turn, because not everyone can speak at once like they would maybe in an in-person meeting. Little things like that really do impact how communication moves back and forth between colleagues. And that really speaks to the speed at which business is conducted. The other thing that you've got is that with remote workers, now you're in their home environment. Whether you like it or not, you're going to see a lot of things that you might not expect to see. You're going to see pets, you're going to see kids, you're going to see wall art. And as a leader, as a manager, you have to resist the temptation to judge. You have to resist the temptation to make comment. You have to not try to manage the colleague's home environment because that's so inappropriate. I mean, I got called out the other day. I mean, maybe not the other day, maybe it was about 3 or 4 months ago. I was conducting a meeting from my home, and sure enough, I was using my favorite coffee mug that my wife gave me, and it said something personal. Yeah, absolutely, about you know, my relationship with my wife. It was kind of good morning, nice husband, or something like that. It was a gift that she gave me, and I held the coffee mug up and took a slurp. Well, one of my colleagues commented on it, and it was certainly innocent enough. Sure, that's great, no problem. But it just reminded me that you've got to be careful, because after all, in the final analysis, a business is a professional organization, and we want to conduct ourselves professionally. So we've got the management looking into maybe colleagues and users in their home environment. They're trying to be as professional as possible. And we are conducting business with our clients and also trying to represent ourselves professionally. So you've got this really weird mix. And even though technology is trying to facilitate this mix, it's really changed the dynamic of how you conduct business.
I really love the example you shared, because that bring it home of exactly that. Now we can see, you know, each other's, you know, living room and dining room and everybody kind of walking around and stuff like that. So
yes,
I'm glad, thanks to Microsoft team and Zoom for kind of putting the backgrounds that you can see in the background, that actually saved us a lot. Because tell you, even the Flawless Inbound team, the first 6 months during COVID, everybody was remote. And we work with a lot of clients in Canada and the US. So we kind of decided to have a background like Flawless Inbound background and just
Sure.
kind of still keep it professional. Of course, you need to be friendly, but you're absolutely right. We had to be very careful with that. I'm glad you guys captured that in the culture as well. Now,
Yeah.
do you ask your team to always have video on in your collaboration, internal and external? Was that some of the if I may say, the new maybe cultural change that need to happen in your meetings?
Well, uh, we're taking a different perspective on this. And the communication is changing. And of course, we're focusing in on the Microsoft Teams platform rather than just, maybe Zoom or Google Hangouts or some of the other things. And what we're discovering is that from a communication perspective, the team environment allows a lot of different channels. So certainly there's traditional email. And of course, a lot of business, especially external with clients, is still conducted by email because that's their chosen method. But within Teams, we also have chat feature. We also have the ability for a Teams meeting. That would be video, or it could be just audio. But now we're also plugging in traditional phone lines. And so our main office phone lines are being now replaced by the Teams environment. And so now it doesn't really make any difference how somebody wants to call us. It's going to be in one platform. And so whether you prefer chat, whether you prefer video chat, whether you prefer a traditional phone line, whether you prefer an email, it's all coming into and integrated into a single platform. And that really, we're just starting to explore the advantages of that. And so this is part of the technology fading into the background, and it's not going to make any difference as to how you want to communicate with me or with my team. It's just one channel that just gets plugged in, and it's all in the same interface. And that really is the advantage that a lot of organizations are going to see once this technology starts to mature, and they start to understand how to implement it in their particular environments. So one seamless platform, I think, is going to have huge advantages for people.
Thank you, Dave. That's to me, that makes perfect sense. The consolidation of a multi-channel platform, and especially back to culture. When your organization is growing, and as TRINUS, right? You guys have been in business for 20, 23 years plus. You will start seeing multi-generation in the organization. Right, and so some generations, they're used to just phone call and I'm there and just email and I'll reply to an email. Other generation, if you email them, they will not even email you back. They will text you or they will just immediately video chat with you.
Yes.
So of course, as TRINUS is kind of bringing this platform to all organizations, I think one of the angles might be also that you're ensuring that those organizations are keeping and maintaining talent, especially future talent for the future. So I can see also that angle that mix technology and culture together using the Microsoft platform to be able to do that.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you can just tell I'm a boomer. I'm transitioning into retirement. So the old way of doing things is my preferred way. But we have several employees, in fact, colleagues on my team that are either millennial or all the way down to Gen Z, or some that have just joined our team that are quite young, and they like to communicate in a completely different manner. You're absolutely right. They're into the chat, they're into the video, they're into texting, they're into whatever works for them. And so we're having to adapt. I'm having to adapt my communication methods with my team. And I'll be honest with you, I'm learning a lot. And in fact, I'm starting to now enjoy a quick text, a quick chat. I'm more likely now just to open up the Teams environment, and if I need to ask a colleague a question, he may be next door, but I'll click on the video chat and ask my question, whereas before I would have walked into his office. So definitely the communication channels are changing. And it really is important that we all even as maybe elder leaders, but also as young up and coming leaders within an organization, just adapt to whatever communication channel the user wants to use with you. Just to forget about what the platform is, just use it, learn how to use it, learn to be comfortable with it, and just get on with business.
Fair enough, fair enough. I just want to echo, I'm X generation, hence why the highlights, the white highlights. So I'm X generation.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this at home with my kids, right? Like, like we WhatsApp, for example, all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
And I want to speak to both of them. We actually do a WhatsApp video conference sometimes. They might be busy because they're playing games with their friends, but
Sure.
I learned to follow their schedule. But also on a business perspective, you're right. Of course, to be able to attract new talent, they will come from a different generation. They have different expectations because of what they have seen in University of Alberta or NAIT or SAIT or Graham McEwen. They're expecting to step into a work environment from an IT perspective, ready for their needs, and for organization to maintain, secure, and nurture this new pool of talent. They have to have this environment. And this, I think, we're trying to stack. You can actually help them build this environment to do that.
Well, and you mentioned, you said one key word, and that's security. And there's there's two aspects here. There's security and there's privacy. And security, means that our information doesn't move outside of the communication channel that we've chosen. But now, instead of having one or two communication channels to secure, like, oh, gee, is your email secure? Is it being hacked? That type of thing. Now there's 10 or 15 different communication channels. That opens up the opportunity for cyber criminals to penetrate all of these various channels. So from a technology perspective in the background, you got to keep it all secure. And if you've got 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 different applications that you're using as your communication suite, you've got to address each one individually. That's one of the hidden advantages of the Microsoft Teams environment, is it's one application, so we have to secure one channel. So the other thing is privacy. And of course, you know that a lot of the primary communication channels now, be it Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, they're driven by a use for free, but advertising and gathering data about the users is their business model. And so I do have some concerns about using some of those free channels and those free communication tools for business work, because at the same time, other organizations are gathering data about you, your organization, your users, and your colleagues. And I am concerned that in the future, how is that going to be used to their advantage, not necessarily to our advantage? So I would just caution business leaders and senior management to be very careful about what platforms they choose, because free isn't always better.
I totally agree with you. Now I'm going to change the conversation kind of in a completely different track here. So I know Flawless and Bound, we have been working with the organization for almost a year in the marketing and the sales development with the team, and very happy both teams are working great. And I know we're using the HubSpot tool from a CRM and marketing automation.
Yes.
The reason why I'm just starting the conversation this way, because I want to ask you now, Dave, where do you see the future of sales and marketing, especially in environments like this? Like how, like from a growth perspective, because I would assume you guys have growth goals in place. So how you would see the sales and the marketing team working together and kind of growing, especially in this environment?
Well, boy, that's been a real learning curve, especially for me, because of course I'm old school, and so before a lot of this pandemic, the environment that we're in right now, our traditional marketing was, hey, we're going to attend trade shows, we're going to go and sponsor golf tournaments, we're going to hang out where our clients hang out, and make no mistake, we've been very successful in doing that, but overnight, all of our 2020 trade shows and marketing events were canceled. Absolutely every one of them. And some organizations, they tried to put together virtual conferences and what have you. but let's just be honest, they were not very successful. So what we had to do is that we had to look to different ways of reaching our clients, and not necessarily, gee, you need to buy from us and, you know, we're great guys and let's get new clients involved, but just maintaining contact with our clients to understand that we're there from a sales and marketing perspective. Sure, they knew our techs were available and they'd call the help desk and we'd help them out with all sorts of things. But from a keeping in touch, from a helping them from a business operation perspective and maintaining contact with them and helping them through some of the new challenges, that fell to our team at, you know, in sales and marketing. So we had to switch, and we couldn't go out and visit clients anymore. So we started to invest a lot in our digital marketing efforts. First thing we needed to do, we needed to bring people like yourselves on as some consultants to help us, to guide us in this new area. So we were thankful that we engaged you quite early in the process. We then had a look at our website, and gee, I'm sure like a lot of organizations that hadn't really had much of a tune-up for a while. And so we had some information that was pretty old, 4 or 5 years old, some things that just didn't make any sense. So we took a lot of time and effort to re-engineer, revamp our website, to make it a lot more friendly, to provide a lot more valuable user information. We were always writing weekly articles that we would distribute by email to our clients, and more from an education information perspective, not what have you got for sale today, but it was how do I use new technology, what's up and coming in the technology field. Well, we use email to distribute these things, and we had, of course, an email client list, but we needed to move that into a more modern environment, and so that's why HubSpot has helped us. So now through HubSpot, we can automate some of those email blogs that we send out weekly. We've even upped our game. We're now sending 2 or 3 articles a week, and it goes to the particular channels. It all gets categorized so the client sees it in a lot more attractive format, and things that are geared for them. So we've segregated it out into different market segments. That really has helped us. So the clients are seeing things that are of interest to them, not just generic stuff. We also then use HubSpot to be able to respond to clients who may have a question about this. They can fill in a form quite quickly. We get that response back here. It eliminates a lot of the garbage that we used to get before, and people just emailing us with a bunch of spam junk. No, now we're getting much more qualified requests for information, inquiries, that type of thing. Plus, it has allowed us then to link in some of our social media channels. Now, one of the big things that we've just started to work with is video. And through encouragement through you and through some others that are on our marketing team, we're starting to do some videos. And now we're just loving this. And so we create a little 3 or 5 minute video segments. And so then we use those, we embed those in our blog articles. We introduce them with a few paragraphs. But now we've got ourselves a YouTube channel and we've got video happening. And so now on a weekly basis, we are producing videos that speak directly to some of the challenges that our clients are facing, and some best practices, some tips, some tricks, and some introduction into some new business practices for them. And so we've incorporated this whole new video channel that I will guarantee you 2 or 3 months ago just wasn't on the radar for us. It was just one of those nice to think about ideas, but now we're fully integrated with that. You've helped us with LinkedIn, getting more involved with LinkedIn and Facebook in providing those digital channels. And is it paying off? Yes, it's starting to pay off. We're seeing more and more interest in our product offerings. Even though there's still the traditional stuff, we're having clients come to us now and saying, hey, we want what you've got. You've got something that we're interested in. And so please, can you contact us? And it's all digital.
That's beautiful. And Dave, thank you. Like our team have been so kind of blessed to be working with your team. We can see the synergy between both organizations. So we want to thank you. I'm glad you guys can see that, there is usually, ROI and friends and people.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
So my final question to you, Dave, just for the audience, as a leader, you've been in this market for 23 years. You've seen a lot of transition, of course, the last one, the volatility in the market, COVID, and all that. What would be one or two advice that you want to leave with the audience today that they need to reflect on? They go back to their organization and they want to bring a change or just take the organization to the next level.
Mhm. Well, okay. I'll give one for what for outfacing. So in other words, every organization deals with external people. That's the whole purpose of an organization. Either you're selling a product or service, or you're servicing a ratepayer, you're providing health services, whatever it happens to be. Trust is the number one thing that is paramount in any external relationship. People need to trust you. You need to be trustworthy in all of your activities and actions and dealings with the client. So how do you develop trust with a person who might be new to your organization or just inquiring about what your products or services are? And before you used to go out and have a meeting with them. Well, now in the digital realm, you have to provide other ways that they have a sense of trust with you and integrity with you. So whatever you do, keep developing that trust relationship with your clients, your prospects, your vendors. Keep nurturing that trust environment and never violate it. Never do anything that is going to cause someone to be suspect of what your motives are, what your intentions are. So that's the number one thing. Maintain that trust relationship externally. Internally, here's my number one thing. Be kind to your people. It's easy to be demanding. It's easy to be moody. It's easy to be not considerate of other people's relationships and other people's environments that they work with, their home and their family. And so we are very conscious and very deliberate to be kind to our people, and that manifests itself in our organization in trying to build a family relationship. We always take time to listen to any of our people and about what is impacting them, be it something maybe at home, could be good, could be bad. We like to celebrate their successes. We like to try to support them when they're going through difficult times. We like to allow them leeway to be people. And if they need some extra time, if they need a different type of job to do for a particular period of time because of maybe a difficulty they're going through or circumstances that they're with, we always try to accommodate that to the best of our ability. And that has manifested itself in our employees like to come to work. And they, many of them have been, a couple have been with us almost from the beginning. Wow. And as we build our team, we always want to make sure that we have that kindness that we impart to them.
This is words of wisdom. Dave, I learned a lot today from you. Thank you so much for your time. This is like amazing takeaway, I think, for the audience and myself as well. So I want to personally thank you for the time today. And for people to know more about you and the organization, where should they go?
TRINUSTech.com is a good place to start. We've got lots of links on our website, lots of information. They can reach out through any of our account managers, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, or good old traditional email still works good too. So lots of information. TRINUSTech.com is the place to go.
Beautiful. Dave, thank you so much. I wish you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll chat soon. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for inviting me and letting me share some of my ideas.